Call the May 25th Sewer Subcommittee to order. We're live, huh, Osvaldo? I guess we're all good to go there. So then we'll turn it over to Mr. Ray Zurkowski, who may have some updates for us on where we are. The guys are making some good progress finally.
Excellent, thank you. So obviously work continues along with the construction as far as the sewer main. Currently, the contractor is up to approximately 7,400 linear feet of the actual force main, the borings that need to be done. So that actually represents about 50% of that force main portion. So just keep in mind there's other sections that need to be done that are gravity. But at this point, they are concentrating on the portions associated with the force main. The gravity sections, they are working on, but just they're concentrating on trying to get the driller in and out as far as the force main. So in this past month, one of the major items that they were able to accomplish to do was to complete the work associated with the airport. So last week, at the southern end of the airport runways, they were located within the approach, and they needed to close down the runway for 2 days. That was Wednesday and Thursday during the daytime while that work was being done. But they have accomplished all of that work on that southern end. So it's not anticipated that there'll be any further shutdowns as far as the airport itself. It's a little unfortunate because during the design phase, we actually submitted a full set of design documents to the FAA for review and comment, and we had limited the types of equipment that were going to be utilized, and it was clearly identified within the plans. And at the time, it was approved as submitted to the FAA. More recently, when we went for our required notification, so prior to working on the airport, it is required that you provide notification 45 days in advance prior to any work. And that gives the FAA yet another opportunity as far as a bite at the apple to take a look at that work. So new person involved as far as that was concerned, and they took a different stance. And originally, while we did not anticipate any type of closures because we had limited the height of the equipment, the more recent review agent deemed it necessary to go ahead and actually close that down. So that was unfortunate. Although it was limited to daytime hours only, at the end of the day, the contractors moved their equipment from the approach areas, and the runway was opened up again. But that work has now been done. There's still going to be work associated with the small diameter force main that's actually going to connect the airport sewer system into the collection system to the main trunk line. And that'll be done in the upcoming weeks, but that'll all be off of the taxiways, so there'll be no requirement to close anything down as far as the airport there. The other areas that they've been doing work in were some of the manholes for the gravity system and 2 additional bores, one underneath Route 66 that brings the line from the Dutch Village pump station across the way to the, I'm going to go ahead and call it the south side of Route 66. And that's the main trunk line that's going to head towards the Commerce Park, and it'll stay on that southerly side the majority of the way. So they were able to make that crossing. That's now complete. So the work associated with the force main portion from the south side of Route 66 at that crossing at Dutch Village to the pump station, and then from the pump station through Dutch Village across the Clavera Creek over to the Greenport wastewater plant, that's all actually now been completed. So they were able to get a good portion of that done. There's another section that they are currently working on as well, and that's under a utility crossing for National Grid along Route 66. That's in an area where there are high tension lines as well as some gas lines that are go underneath Route 66, and so they're doing that section as we speak now. So they should be done with that over the next day or two. So again, in total, right now, 50% of the force mains are done. Just about 10% to 20% of the catch base, or my apologies, manholes are done. And they're going to continue along those lines and work with gravity systems as well, and then try to get that drilling rig complete and moved off site. So that way they're done with all of the drilling as soon as possible. So that's what we anticipate over the next month or so. And then the contractor is debating bringing in a second crew specifically to start working on the pump station. So the pump station material, as far as the precast materials, have been coming in, and the pump station components, the mechanical components, they also are being delivered as well. So we'll be getting started on many of the pump stations. And that's going to be taking some time. So that's why it looks like we're going to be bringing in a second, if not a third crew to get that done. So that way we can meet our required deadlines as far as the overall schedule. Right now, the contractor, again, he has been able to take advantage of the good weather that we've been having. So that's been very favorable as far as the construction schedule. So at this point, we don't see any delays. We feel the contractor can still make the required deadline for DEC as far as meeting the construction before the end of the year prior to decommissioning. From a financial standpoint, change order wise, we had approved the change order for the credit on some of the drop pipes inside of the pump stations. So that was a credit of almost $9,500. We've had a few smaller change orders come in, the largest of which had to do with the runway closure requirements that the FAA put on us. So again, we originally did not anticipate a closure. However, the contractor is required under the FAA guidelines and regulations to actually place large roadway closure signs on the runway while it is taken out of service. So he had to rent those units. And we originally anticipated a longer duration, and we estimated, and the contractor provided a cost of about $6,000. However, we didn't use it for the entire duration, so that amount is going to be much less. We're looking at in the area of $3,000 to $4,000.
We rented those units, right? Is that right, Ray?
That's correct. He did rent those. So a case in point, just something to think about for the county. Those are rental units. They are available for purchase as well. And since the county does own the airport, and from time to time there may be an emergency at the airport, it may not be a bad idea at some point for the county to think about purchasing those.
What kind of money?
I don't know whether you can do that through perhaps one of the FAA grants and put it under one of the FAA projects, because I know that there are constant projects that are taking place out at the airport. But that may not be a bad idea to try to include something like that into one of those contracts for future use by the county. And again, we had to do it because of construction, but in case there's an accident and the runway has to be taken out of service with a no notice exercise, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea for the county to have those. So that way they would be at Brian's disposal to be able to place out onto those runways.
What kind of cost is that, Ray? Do you know?
Offhand, I don't. I only know what the rentals were. I'd have to get some information, but I wouldn't anticipate that they'd be more than $15,000 total. And again, I know purchasing on your own could be, quite expensive, but if you're able to incorporate it perhaps into one of the FAA projects, if that's acceptable, then you're only paying cents on the dollar as far as the overall cost, as far as the county share.
Hey,
So something to consider as far as one of those next projects that are coming up.
hey, Ray, I want to interrupt. I priced out some of them brand new. They're anywhere between 20 and 25.
Oh, okay.
But I've been in contact with Ralph from the FAA. He put me on to the Port Authority. A lot of times they do a lot of surplus. He told me the last time he thought he saw them on there, which had, a couple, 100 hours use on it. they went for 2,500 a piece.
Fantastic.
And so I was looking into it. I found the actual the runway X's for daytime closure. So I priced that out. That's around $1,700. But that's just for daytime closure, not for nighttime.
Yeah,
But,
I think
that's another option too.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think if you get them, and again, especially if you're able to get them, whether it be an auction or surplus sale, I would go for the illuminated one. So at least that way, again, in case something does happen at night, you're covered as far as both daytime and nighttime.
So we charge.
Yeah, that's actually a great idea as far as trying to do it through surplus.
So Brian, did you talk to Passero? I know we talked about having a meeting with them pretty soon here to go over some things. Maybe we should check with them to see if that is something the FAA would pay for in one of the grant programs.
Yeah, I did talk to Bruce. He's the one that gave me the dimension and what type of for the actual closure for the day, just in case. But I'm sure we can incorporate it in the, one of the grants, because it'd be considered airport equipment. Actually, that's what the guy from the aviation, the FAA kind of alluded to also. But he was just like, to buy a new one, to have it sit there when you're better off trying to find one on surplus to save that kind of money. Because I looked them up and they were like, I think the cheapest one I saw was like 18,000 or something like that. So.
All right. Good. So two other smaller change orders. One had to do with out at Village Dodge. They have lights along the right-of-way, and actually their lighting is within the right-of-way as well. But there were some conduits that the contractors run into that we do need to relocate in order to get the equipment in as far as the sewer line. That's going to be a $2,000 change order. And then there was a drainage pipe, a small diameter 8-inch drainage pipe that was found. Unfortunately, we're not able to trace where it's coming from or leading to, but it does look like it's active. So we just don't want to abandon it in place. We need to have the contractor go ahead and make a repair as far as a reconnection there. And that's an additional $2,000. So in total, it looks like we'd be somewhere in the range of $8,000 as far as the overall, adds or additions as far as change orders. So again, the credit that we have to date would cover those. All right. So we're still roughly even, if you would, into this project. We continue to, try to minimize those as much as possible. These, unfortunately, were just some unforeseen conditions as we normally have to deal with anytime we're digging in the ground. We try to locate everything and all utilities as best as we can, but sometimes we're just not able to do that. But again, overall, we're still even, if not $1,000 in the plus or positive as far as that credit is concerned. For Ron Caponero, I have spoken to EFC and have emailed back and forth with them. I was dealing with Robert Armitage, and he initially was holding on to all of the reimbursement, and he was going to reimburse with one clip. He's still working on the Morris CPL expenditures. He requested some additional information, which we had sent over to him the other day. But in the meantime, what he's going to do is he's going to separate the construction portions out, since those have all been approved from the WBE plan and so forth, and he will process those construction contracts as far as those reimbursements.
I got good news for you, Ray, because I spoke to Rob Armitage this morning, and we're good to go on everything that you provided him. He's happy with it. And I've submitted 3 recs to them. So next Thursday, not this Thursday, EFC will release $1,469,000 to the county. Of that, it's about 50-50 split. $725,541 will come back to the county, because that's all the funds we have put out over the years to Morris and CPL. And then Keeler will get a check well, we'll cut the check for him, Ray.
Mhm.
But the funds will be 743,510, and that's for his first 3 requisitions that he submitted. So we're good to go with EFC finally.
Good. So now that we've done all that, and thank you, Ron, for speaking with them as well, it sounds like moving forward, it's going to be a much smoother process as far as that reimbursement, as they had previously indicated. So it sounds like once you submit it, that usually the county will get reimbursed in about a week's time. So great. I'm glad that he's satisfied. Finally, that's good news. So the cash. So be happy, PJ. Cash is flowing. In the upcoming month, as far as the next 30.
Ray, I'll acknowledge that with just one clarification. Keeler isn't getting the check, it's Keller. Construction.
I said, TJ's getting a big check.
Yeah, we're gonna clarify that.
Maybe he's taking us all on vacation.
Thanks, John, anyway.
So over the next 30 days, that you're going to see more activity, as you probably have seen some activity along Route 66. They're continuing to do a lot of the clearing as far as brush and trees and things of that nature within the easements. And you'll start to see more construction equipment along that line as well as they start to make that connection. All right. That's about all the update I have, unless there's any questions from any of the supervisors. Yes, Ms. Eldridge.
Have there been any more requests for hookups?
There was the one request that came in from at the intersection of Route 66 and 9H. There was one request that was made there. And Dutch Village has made a request as well.
Okay.
But the county needs to, at some point, decide how it would want to proceed with that in a procedural matter. And I don't know if Rob Fitzsimmons is on the line or not, but, we've been very clear with both entities, the fact that it's not an easy process, the fact that the county has been concentrating on getting the Commerce Park, connected, and the fact that they would need to make a formal request to the county, number one. The county will need to decide how it would like to proceed as far as a connection. Number one, whether they're going to entertain it. Number two, from a legal standpoint, as far as whether it be an out-of-district user, a district extension, those type of items, that would need to be clarified and dealt with at the county level. And then obviously, pursuant to the agreement with the town of Greenport, it would also need to be agreed upon and accepted by the town of Greenport as far as its review. But I think one of the bigger things is for the county to think about how it would want to proceed. And again, I think Rob Fitzsimmons would be able to weigh in on that a little more as far as procedurally the best method of that to take place. And I think
that maybe he has some information for us on this. Matt?
I'm sorry, did you say me, Ron?
Yeah, you got your hand up. Yep.
Well, yeah, if my memory serves me correct, I don't know if it was at the last sewer sub meeting or in a conversation I had with Kippy, that we needed to develop a process of how we're going to, and publicize that process and work with Greenport in developing the process, because it's, obviously we need them to approve it as well or not approve it. But I think we should put some type of, whether it's Rob Fitzsimmons, Ray, and whoever else, and representatives from Greenport to put together a process for people who do want to hook up, so that there's a standard way of doing it.
Yeah, I can find it. Have a conversation with Dr. Fitzsimmons about that, but it was just kind of informal, but we do need to get that going. And I see Rob Perry has his hand up. Maybe he has some insight on that as well, too.
Rob Perry always has something to say.
Go ahead.
All right, so listen, I went into, what the hell? who was there? Who was the director before the chair before? Stifler, Ed Stifler. So I went into his little box of gadgets, and there's already a sewer and water connection application that he has in there. That's one of these Johnny's Ideal triplicate forms, and these water and sewer hookup application procedures for the sewer and water district with Crawford Associates details. What is it that we don't have? That's not in what I just listed.
Well, those are that's paperwork that's for any type of proposed hookup that's within the district. So keep in
Okay.
mind the properties that we're talking about, such as Dutch Village, such as Route 6, the intersection of Route 66 and 9H. Those are located actually outside of the existing Columbia County Sewer District Number 1. So procedurally, the county needs to decide whether it wants to, number one, expand the district to include properties along 66, or whether it wants to handle it as out-of-district users. And that's an important item because obviously, when you're thinking of the work that's being done now and the improvements that are being done, those are capital improvements. And as a special district, Columbia County Sewer District Number 1 properties are paying in part for those improvements. Obviously, there's grant money involved and so on and so forth. But it's those, because it's a special district, only those properties that are benefiting pay the capital. In this case, it's those properties located within the existing district. So these proposed properties are located outside of the district. So either you extend the district so they become part of the district,
Or we charge more.
or you create an outer district user mechanism and you charge them more to compensate and to cover what they would have been paying if they were inside of the district. You know, maybe it's 2.5 times the going rate. Maybe it's a percentage based on property value. They're very different. There are various methods that can be utilized. But as the chairman has indicated, I think it's important for it to be vetted out so that way the county, the committee and the county as a whole, as well as Greenport, can all make an informed decision because there's more than one way of dealing with this. But it does need to be a formal process so that way it's consistent and the county can use that process moving forward, not just for these two properties that are now interested, but for any other properties that may be interested in the future.
Right, but you would use EDUs regardless, right? I mean,
Well, unfortunately, that's not the way the original district was formed. So you'd have to go back and then get a new approval from the Attorney General's office as far as that process. I guess
what I'm saying is if Dutch Village has got 125 units, I mean, we know what they have you're gonna know what the flow is, right? I mean.
Correct, but that's not necessarily when the original formula was created for the water district or my apologies, water and sewer district. They used a combination of flow as well as property value. So again, we would be able to take a look at that and perhaps use that as a, compensation measure. But yes, I mean, there's methods of doing it, bro. I don't mean the
I get it.
I don't mean to be argumentative. It's just the fact of there are different ways of doing it. Unfortunately, the original map plan report, when it was first put in and when the actual district was created back in the early 90s, did not use EDUs. It used a combination of anticipated flows as well as volume, or my apologies, as well as property value.
Yeah, it's no problem, Ray. We're all good.
Kathy Eldridge has got a hand up first.
Bill. So how many are now out there at Commerce Park from when the original contract was signed with the county in Greenport? How many more have been in? Yeah.
The number of properties have remained the same. So
Okay, so there's been no added businesses out there to the Commerce Park site itself since the initial.
Well, I believe there's been
Just a couple.
The numbers of properties have stayed the same. I believe that there have been transfer of ownership as far as at least one, maybe two properties.
Okay.
I
And
believe
where are we at with Whittier?
I have not heard anything as far as the grinder for Whittier. I'll have to get
Boy, oh
together with
boy.
Rob on that.
Matter of fact, I asked Rob Fitzsimmons last week about that and, you know, I don't think they have been very responsive, Supervisor. So, and I think we need to.
That's too bad because, I mean,
That's becoming an issue out there.
they're gonna
Well,
have a
sorry.
lot, they're gonna have a lot of stuff to deal with out there because it's not, I don't know, you know, if you cannot allow, if you can make them to allow hookup, but they can't ruin a multi-million-dollar.
Mhm.
Actually,
Yeah.
Rob Perry, I have a question for you. You mentioned in Ed Stifler's Bag of Tricks, I believe. But do you know, did they have, you mentioned details and things like that. Were there rules and regulations associated with the district? Do you know if that, any of that information was included?
I have water and sewer hookup application procedure. It basically defers to Greenport on a lot of the stuff.
Okay.
And that's it, just this one application. There may be something more in here. I'll take a greater look. I just kind of was going through
Okay.
this.
Yeah, because one of the other things that Rob and I were talking about, that in part has to do with Whittier, but also has to do with, again, depending upon how the county wants to move forward as far as these additional properties, is creating a set of rules and regulations associated with the water and sewer districts. So that way those districts have a little more teeth, if you would, as far as potential violations with users such as Whittier.
I think we need to do that from my conversations with Rob.
Would it
Yeah.
be, would it be advantageous to have a sit down with the owners of Ghent Rehab and Assisted Living with the town of Greenport and the county and our attorney and our water and sewer and Ray in a formal setting to let them know where we're at and what we want, but we have to know what we want and what the limits are and what they can and cannot do.
Well, we've been very clear to them. I know Rob has sent numerous correspondences to Whittier. It's been very clear as far as what the county is looking for. It's getting them to take action. And but it wouldn't hurt by all means.
Because they have big circular files out there, you know.
Right.
The thing,
Big ones.
Ray, is just to jump in, I sat in on a meeting that they had a separate pit totally redesigned that was supposedly going to take care of this. They were supposed to build this thing, I think, or 2 years ago. I don't know if you were.
Yeah.
Was that
You
the
know, I
previous owners?
did review. Yeah, they came up with it. They came up with a solution, but I was
Wasn't-
concerned
It
about
never
the
got done.
solution. No, it never got done, but I was also concerned about the solution because there are actually two, as you know, there are two facilities out there. There's the nursing home and then there's the assisted living facility. And they're two separate parcels. I believe they may be owned by the same group currently, but that's not necessarily to say that, not necessarily the case in the future, that they're always going to be owned by the same entity. And so the concern that I have is that they were taking care of Whittier as far as the nursing home and that outlet, but they were not doing anything as far as the assisted living facility. And the concern that I had was where they were proposing to place this particular unit was actually on the main trunk line of the counties. So I had a discussion with Jamie Malcolm of the Department of Environmental Conservation because we had run into a similar type of situation regarding collection systems and violations in the town of Greenport. And a concern came up that if there is something that takes place within the collection system, whether it's caused by Whittier or not, but if it's located within the collection system of the county, technically the county is responsible for that violation. And it's the county's responsibility to deal with the violation if there's an overflow. I'm not saying dealing with the rags and things like that, but dealing with the overflow as far as any violation and corrective measure. So the concern that I had is that since this pit and since that grinder was going to be in that trunk line, technically if something were to happen, county would be the first one the DEC would be calling, and then you would have to take action against Whittier.
Mhm.
And that could be problematic. I mean, keep in mind, look how long it's take Whittier to take action on this particular item that they haven't dealt with for over 2 years.
But Ray, we wound up with Brian. I'm not sure the exact numbers, but I know you bring in the bills from that thing being cleaned, and they're
Right.
thousands of dollars a year we're paying. You know, the county's paying for this, you know?
No, I
I
agree,
admit-
and that's why I agree that that's one of the reasons that it's important to see and confirm that if there are any rules and regulations associated with the county sewer district now, and if not, to create those rules and regulations, so that way, again, if it can be proven, and it's pretty clear in this case, you know, where that debris is coming from as far as, you know, the large wipes and different components and different items that are not being broken down, you can then put those violations and put back charges to those entities. Because it'd be very clear. Right now, you can do that, but you may get into a little bit of a legal battle.
You could create your own, another sub-district, right? Call it Whittier District 1. The county could install a communator and then just increase their rates.
Right, but then we need to get, you know, their property and everything else. So, Rob, just so you're, that is what they were proposing, and we wanted them to take it out of our trunk line, our collection system, and we wanted them to place one on their discharge out of Whittier, so it's on their property, they're responsible for the maintenance, and then have a separate one for the assisted living, similarly, where it's on their property and they're responsible for the maintenance. But we were proposing and had requested that they put commoners in.
Right, I understand. All I was saying is that there's, one of the things you can always say to them is to say, look, you guys can do this or we can do it. And, you know, when they do it, they get to control the cost of the project. It doesn't have all the expenses, the prevailing wage, all the other things that a municipal project would have.
Right. Well, so I don't disagree with, I agree with that, and I don't disagree with the supervisor Eldridge as far as, you know, getting a sick now, because at this point it is becoming more critical. It's always been an issue, and I know the county unfortunately continues to pay these maintenance costs at the existing facility, and the fact that we're going to have this brand new, you know, pump stations and so forth, we want them to be on board with getting that resolved, you know, in a timely manner. Hopefully, so that way it coincides with when this pump station and force main get placed in line.
So what is the end, if they don't do anything and it's hookup time? What do we do? I mean, do we not hook them up? Do we, you know, cap them off? Do we, what is the option? There has to be some kind of, they have to feel it somehow, because monetarily they're not feeling it from the cleaning out that the Columbia County is doing. They're sitting there not doing this because they're thinking to themselves, well, they really can't do anything to us if we don't hook it up. You know, so there has to be some kind of consequence that takes place. And we have to know what that consequence is to sit down and say, you know, if you don't do this, we're going to cap you off. Just like we've said, we're going to shut your water off. You know, there has to be a consequence.
Look, Kathy, I love the way you roll, but if we did that, DEC would be down in like 30 seconds and we would be.
So
on
if there
Schitt's
is no
Creek.
consequence, and DEC is going to say this is what they can do, then it's not even an issue anymore, is it?
The things could be done. It could be set up differently. Ray's right. You can create a law, you can put it against the property, right, Ray?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And again, it's just,
Right.
and
It
we
takes
can
us
do
adopting
that.
a different set of rules and regulations, though.
So if
Exactly.
we're going to change the way it's got to be done, then it needs to be changed to get it done.
Right.
And they need to know that this is what's going to happen. And if we're able to back charge them or even charge them for the work that's going to be done, that would be, you know, that would be amazing for the county. Because if you say you reap back, it costs you $5,000 to get back 30,000 that you've spent cleaning this place out, you're still ahead of the game. You're still ahead.
I think we need to put together a list of what our options are. One of which is creating a separate district, as Rob Perry said, or whatever, whatever other options that there are, that so that we can get this done, because I think it's critical that
It is.
it get done prior to the hookup.
Because this is the third sewer subcommittee meeting that I've been at, and this is the same conversation. So if the commitment's going to be made to put something in place, then at the next sewer sub meeting, there should be that kind of dialogue, but this is what we've come up with.
So if it's okay with the committee and the chairman, then I can get together with Rob Fitzsimmons. We can get Rob Perry, because I know Rob Perry deals with these type of items as well in the city, and Ron Knott, and we'll start that dialogue, and we'll get some items put together for consideration at the next committee meeting for June.
I think that's important. I do, because it's been going on a long time.
What we'll
Thank
do
you.
is we'll try to create a roadmap for the committee to get to that end point.
Thank you very much.
And I don't think it would hurt if we met with the facility as well. If we have those options put together, we can then say, hey, this is, what we're prepared to do or not to do.
This is the ballpark. Yep. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy. All right, anybody else got anything?
Yeah, I'd just like to ask Ray something. I understand with the airport closure, and that change order. My thing is as a contractor with these change orders, when they're going through Village Dodge, they gotta know that they're gonna be running into something underneath those lines, right? Underneath those lights. So how come we're not, where do we draw a line between the change order and, hey, guess what? You didn't figure it right. So you should have figured this, It's not a big change order, and I don't mean to be micromanaging the thing, but I don't know. These change orders sometimes get to me.
Oh, no, understand. Listen, I agree. I mean, I don't nobody likes change orders, especially when they're working against you. And I agree with you there. But a contractor is doing the work based on what's being presented to him as far as drawings and specifications and things like that. And as designers, we are responsible for putting those documents together, but we also do the best effort that we can, and we can't always find everything as far as utilities. We used our own forces as well as hired subconsultants to locate, utilities. And we had quite a few marked out in that entire area. From time to time, you are going to get some that are not marked, especially on the private end. Again, for Village Dodge, in that case, we weren't able to trace those. We knew that there were lights there, but we weren't able to trace those particular lights as far as finding out where those service lines were heading to. So unfortunately, the contractors is encountering those, but you can't always find everything that's buried in the ground. If you're dealing with building,
I understand that part of it. I'm just saying they got to realize. I mean, when they make these bids, they got to realize they're going underneath those lines. Underneath those wiring. So
right.
Anyway,
I mean, we try to beat them up as best as we can. It's and so contractors can come up with very innovative ways of trying to create change orders, and we try to scrutinize those as best as we can, and we will continue to do so.
Good.
However, that being said, I will also express to the contractor that it's noted, the fact that the county's noted and questioning, in addition to the questioning that we're doing, but the county is also questioning, these change orders and scrutinizing them. So at least that way they're aware, moving forward as we continue, that they're not just going to be able to throw in any type of change order,
Thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else got comments? Questions, concerns? I'm glad to see the project moving along. I thought of this as we were joining on the long road we've come on from when we started some of this planning some years ago. So come a long ways, and now it's actually happening, and it's great to see the money starting to flow now.
Good.
If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Morel.
Second, Guzzi.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care,
Bye-bye
everyone.
now.
Bye now.
Bye. May Public Works, and we're gonna start with the highway agenda. Take it away, Tony.
All right, we're getting busy here. Our usual sign maintenance, we were finally able to dismantle our snow and ice equipment. We completed all the sweeping of the county roads, and we're currently washing and sealing all of our concrete bridge decks that are on the schedule. Roadside and airport mowing has started. Numerous driveway pipe installations, ditch and culvert maintenance. We began our hot mix patching of the county roads. That's our drag box operation, as well as street sweeping for the villages of Valatia and Chatham. Culvert replacements and drainage work on County Route 10 in the town of Livingston, and that's ahead of the planned reconstruction and paving of that road. Culvert replacements and drainage work on County Route 9 in Ghent and Chatham, again ahead of the upcoming construction. We completed some work at the current and as well as the former fire training centers. Assisted the city of Hudson with hauling concrete blocks for their summer streets program. We've been screening millings from previous road construction projects, and a lot of them will be used on this year's projects for shoulder backup, stuff like that. We installed a blacktop ramp at DSS, which was something we had met with them last year about and plan to do early in this construction season. So that's been completed. We did some road repair at the Claverick landfill, usual maintenance of that. Culvert replacement on County Route 8 in Ancrumdale. And we've been doing some painting of our intersection stop bars. Personnel update, one employee out on leave of absence, one employee out still on workers' comp, and one employee out on extended sick leave. New business, our annual safety training day for the county, towns, villages, and City of Hudson has been scheduled for June 16th and 17th at the county fairgrounds. Resolution requests, I got a bunch of them here. First one's authorization to declare the following vehicle surplus equipment and sell at our line auction. It's highway truck number 94, which is a 2001 International dump truck.
I'll move that.
Got a motion? Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Second one's authorization to sell at auction surplus miscellaneous shop equipment, sanders, and obsolete vehicle parts.
I'll move that.
Move it.
No.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Number three, authorization to increase the CHIPS expenditure line, which is a DO 5E5112 2000 E4000 line, as well as the CHIPS revenue line by $2,931,564.21. This is due to an increase of $1,399,185.06 in CHIPS PAVE New York and Extreme Winter Recovery funding from New York State, as well as available rollover funds from the 2021 CHIPS funding, which totaled $1,532,379.15.
Ray Stats always likes to take in more money. You want to move that, Ray?
I'll move it.
That's got to be yours, Ray. I'll second it.
I got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And number four, authorization to fill one vacant position of motor equipment operator 2 in the highway department, and any vacancies therefrom at the 2021 grade 12C base salary of $46,083. Salary level contingent upon the years of county service of the appointee.
This is due to resignation, correct?
Yes, this was a resignation.
There it is.
In December of 2020. Yep.
I'll move that.
Second.
I got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Number five, authorization to fill one vacant position of motor equipment operator 1 in the hire department at the 2021 grade 12 step 1 salary of $37,602, and that was due to the most recent resignation.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Number 6, authorization to purchase 2 one-ton pickup trucks with plow equipment from Metro Ford of Schenectady off of New York State OGS mini bid number 6686. These purchases were paid for with funds from the vehicular equipment line, and a total for both vehicles not to exceed $100,199.80. The budget in that line is $250,000.
Now, they gas or diesel?
They're diesels.
Diesel, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we started purchasing those Ford diesels, I think 3 or 4 years ago. And there's no comparison with them in pushing snow and with the sander on them and the abuse they take. I'm a Chevy guy, but I can't say enough about these trucks.
Is this, these are just regular cab, right?
These are, yes. They're the extended cab, the super cab.
For 50,000 apiece, wow.
Yeah, they're actually $50,099.40 a piece. But that's with all the plow equipment as well.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tony, we had talked about this. I don't think Ron Caponera is on the call, is he, anywhere? Did you talk to Ron about the idea that we could potentially pay for these out of stimulus money because they were in the 2020 budget?
Yes, I did. Before I did these, actually, I did these up, and before I finalized them, I called him and sent them to him to look over.
Okay,
And he said the way they were written up was fine. I
okay,
can't speak for him, but I assume the thinking down the road was that if and when that money became available, we
Right.
could do what we had to do to make that change. But
yeah,
yeah,
I did talk to him about it. I just wanted to make sure we were wording the resolution correctly so that we.
right. Yeah, I sent them all to him ahead of time.
Okay.
And he said they were fine. Number 7, authorization.
Well,
I'm sorry.
We need a motion for that.
yeah, we didn't do this one.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second
it.
Jeannie seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Aye.
you.
Opposed?
Authorization to purchase 2022 Ford F-550 regular cab, medium duty dump truck with plow equipment off of New York State OGS mini bid contract number 6688 from the NYE Automotive Group of Oneida, New York. The total cost not to exceed $71,880 to be paid for out of the vehicular equipment line. Now this truck, we're looking, our plans for this truck are kind of twofold. It would take the place of a crew pickup truck, just a regular cab crew pickup truck for work during the summer. Give crews the ability where they don't need a large dump truck for smaller jobs to have the ability to use the dump body as well. And then in the wintertime with plowing, we would put a gondola sander in the back. It gives us the ability to work at the airport, Commerce Park, intersections, stuff like that. It could act as a spare foreman truck. Since we are short on pickup trucks and especially spares, we've had plenty of times where numerous foreman trucks are broken down for one reason or another. This would give one more vehicle that the foreman could grab, because some of the foremen actually do have rounds that they perform that include intersections, certain parking lots, Commerce Park, stuff like that. So it kind of be a multi-purpose vehicle. Something we had looked to purchase last year and then put on hold.
Is this a steel body for the dump?
I don't have the spec in front of me. I believe it is.
And that's a V plow, right?
Yes. Yeah, we've been doing the Fisher V plows.
Okay.
All right, we need a motion on the 550.
I'll move it. I'll second it.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 8, authorization to purchase one 2022 F-350 Super Cab with utility body and plow off the New York State mini bid 6687 from Van Bortle Ford of East Rochester, New York. At a total cost not to exceed $67,123.38, to be paid for out of the vehicular equipment line. And this would replace our other shop truck, the one that we pulled off the auction line from Weights and Measures last year that they've been running. And the reason we had asked to do that last year was because we had put this truck on hold. So that would be for the shop.
So this is a utility body. Is that a steel body or aluminum? What's the?
I believe it's aluminum body.
Now, my only concern with this is that we're going to put a sander in there
No, this truck would not get a sander.
because it'll kill that body if you.
Now, this truck would not get a sander, but it would get a plow because a lot of times during the storms when the Canada has free time, they plow the Hudson Yard so they can keep the fuel islands open so vehicles coming in and out can access the fuel islands. So
Okay,
it would give them the ability to do that.
these are all diesels, I presume, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I'll move it.
Motion, do we have a second?
Okay, this one, the next three in this
Well, I'll second it.
Okay, yeah, I was just gonna say, I didn't get a second. Okay.
Yep, all in favor?
Aye.
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 sorry,
Hey, Tony, who does your upfitting?
what's that?
Who does the upfitting for the trucks you buy?
All of our bigger trucks is Wax up in
Yeah.
Steventown. Yep.
Okay.
Number 9, and these are all going to CHIPS purchases. So authorization to purchase one 2021 International HX 620 SBA 6x4 dump truck with plow equipment off of Onondaga County Purchasing Contract number 8996 from Navistar Incorporated of Loudonville. One 2021 Ham HD 13i roller off of Sourcewell, formerly NGPA, contract 032119JDC1, and one 2021 Case 621G wheel loader with broom and forks off of OGS contract PC 67265. A total cost for all three not to exceed $488,776.28. To be paid for with funds out of the E4000 CHIPS line. And the balance in that line is currently $1,827,183.20, but will be going up with the addition of the CHIPS money that we had the resolution on tonight.
So is the international dump truck and the roller and stuff? Let's first go to the international dump truck. Does that have a extended warranty? Did you buy with that at all? Or?
Well, we haven't purchased it, but it's the same warranty that we get with all the other internationals.
It's an extended though, Tony. Or okay. And what about that roller and the wheel loader? Are we buying those with extended warranties or not?
That I don't know. I'd have to check into that. I don't remember if that was on the thing or not.
I was just wondering if we could, because, get
Yep.
an idea what that's going to cost us. And every time they come down, it's crazy. At least that warranty does help us a little
Right,
bit.
right. No, absolutely. Yeah.
What motor's in that 21 International? And
I
offhand?
believe it's the Cummins, I think.
Okay.
Yep.
That's an automatic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
The important question is on that, Tony, when do you think we can get that truck?
Well, back when we last month or the month before when we checked, everything was with the exception of the I believe the roller and the loader, everything was at least 6 to 8 months out.
So what did this case wheel loader come in with the forks and we're trading the old one in. I was just
I can tell you that they give us the $31,000 for the trade.
Okay.
And so it comes in at $151,517, and that's with the power broom and the forks and the bucket.
So is that loader, that 17-year-old loader, how bad a shape is that?
It's got a bit of body rust. It still runs good, but we kind of we actually are still going to keep that. I don't remember from last year. We kept the old cat loaders. I think it's a 1986 cat loader that we keep up at the pistol range.
Right.
That we just can't seem to part ways with. They don't really make them like that anymore. So that one just keeps running and running and running. And for what we would get on a trade for that compared to what we get on a trade for the 2004 that we're trading in, it's like night and day. So it just made sense to trade in the 2004. It's had quite a bit of work done on it in the past.
Right. So what did that case loader come in? I'm sorry, I didn't hit a number when you took the trade out of it.
When you take the trade out of it, it's 151,517.
Okay. All right. Does it pay for us just for discussion to keep that old loader, or is it, we don't want to keep old stuff just in the corner. I just didn't know if there was a place for it for 30.
Right. Well, we generally try to keep one spare loader. And like I said, that's that old cat. Because what we've done in the past, if we get into a situation where we have two loaders go down,
Right.
we can run the airport as well. Because during the wintertime, we keep that up at the airport.
Right.
So we don't generally keep three spare loaders. Not that we've ever run into situations where we haven't had three spare loaders down. Very rare. In that case, usually what we'll do is we'll send the grade all out to whatever outpost needs the loader, and they'll just have to load with the grade all. Years ago, we had a couple backhoes too, which we could do, but since we don't have any backhoes anymore. So
That's fun. I was just asking. The other thing is I don't mean to go. Just should we put prices? I mean, in this resolution of what these units are actually costing, rather than just put a total price in. You know what I mean, Ron? Like where it says the dump truck. Well, that truck is X amount of
We can
dollars.
break that out.
we can discuss if you want to discuss the prices right now. I do have them in front of me. I don't know if that'll make.
No, I'm fine with that. I'm just saying, should they be put on the resolution?
Oh, my suggestion would be, can we modify it for finance tomorrow?
Yeah, that's all. Not
Prices.
Yeah.
You understand what we're looking for, Tony? So you say that
Yes.
the international truck is 250,000 and the loader is 150, and
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you want a new resolution for it? You want me to send the pricing for your meeting tomorrow,
Or do you want it as an attachment to the resolution? Would that be better? That might be easier. Or do you want to see it in the resolution, Jim?
I'd like to see it in a resolution, not to be a
Okay.
pain in the neck, but I don't have a problem, going tonight and approving this and you just modifying it for
Right.
tomorrow. meeting,
Okay.
so,
Yep, I'll modify it. I'll send it to Ron Caponera for his signature, and then I'll. Where would you like me to send it?
Send it to Kelly.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you, Tony.
Yep, you got it.
Just to break it out, Sherry, that's all, so that.
Okay, I'll
we
let
get
Kelly know
questions
that's coming.
Yeah,
Okay, very good. Thank you.
it's the same money. It's just a better description of the job.
right, that's all I'm
Got
saying.
it.
Expenditure. So,
Yeah, that's no problem.
okay.
And that's you got to do a motion or.
Yep. So we need a motion for this resolution.
Move it.
Al moved it. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any second it? All in favor?
Aye.
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 And that's all I got for highway.
Well, that was enough money, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I couldn't even say some of them numbers. They were so big, but I mean, it is nice that we've got this money to work with, especially for the roads.
Well, we did take more than a year off of buying any of that equipment, so we didn't buy anything. So,
It certainly would help us kind of on the road to catching up,
right. All right, Tony, are you going to present the engineering agenda here, or?
Yeah, I have the agenda. Barb outlined for me in yellow. She outlined the stuff that was new. So, do you want me to just touch on that, or would you like?
Sure, that's fine. Yeah,
Okay.
this committee's had it, but
Yep. All right. Down under number 2, the Bridge New York program. The third round of bridge culvert funding application solicitation. The final culvert replacement project applications were submitted on May 18th, 2021 for funding under the Bridge New York program, County Route 7 over Punza Creek in the town of Austerlitz. and County Route 7 over a tributary to the Roloff Jansen Kill in the town of Gallatin. We should hear the results in mid-fall to early winter. 2 bridge draft applications were sent out on May 4th, 2021 for Buckwheat Bridge and Dales Bridge Road, and Germantown and Livingston and Gallatin Bridge on Mill Hill Road in Gallatin. Pre-review comments were received this week for the bridges, and the office is reviewing them to update the final applications, which are due on June 9th, 2021. 2021 multi-bridge element specific repair improvement contract. The plans are complete, and the bids will be advertised this week for the project and will be opened on June 17th, 2021. The avgas fuel farm replacement. This is under airport updates. Final plans were sent to the FAA in early May for their review and approval to advertise for the bid, and are hoping to advertise in early summer. FFY 2021 AIP FAA grant application. We have been informed that the grant was approved and are awaiting official notification from the FAA to execute the grant agreement and the associated consultant agreement for design of this project. Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act of 2020. We have received a grant offer for the CRRSA in the amount of $23,000, which must be executed and received by the FAA June 17, 2021. And see resolution request number 5. Under the CARES Act, a request for reimbursement of $47,941.25 was recently received, leaving $21,058.75 to be requested. The amount received covered the expenses, including electricity, supplies, repairs, and maintenance for the airport, paid by the facility department. Next, we will total the manpower and machinery hours for snow plowing and mowing for reimbursement, which will bring us to the maximum amount of the grant. And next, a resolution request. Resolution requested authorizing the chairman of the Board of Supervisors to accept and execute a federal coronavirus response program grant, the RGP grant offer, grant number 3-36-0042-044-2021 for the reimbursement of airport operational maintenance funds. Whereas Columbia County has been offered a grant from the FAA to reimburse up to $23,000 of costs relating to operations, personnel, cleaning, sanitization, janitorial services, combating the spread of pathogens at the airport, and debt service payments.
We have a motion to accept some money.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
And that was what she had outlined for me.
Can we get an update? I'm not sure who would give it, but as to where we are, what's been happening since we don't have Dean, and what we're going to do about that, and how we've been operating without him and so forth?
So, yeah, I'll touch on that quickly.
Thank you.
We still reeling in the fact that we've lost Dean, as you can imagine.
I know.
Our body and is covering a lot of things in the office. We do have Mike DeRusio, who worked under Dean, has been coming out there a couple days a week to help. CPL has offered their services. A number of the firms like CPI and things like that have been helping move things along. Where we're going to go in a long-range plan, we do need to start talking about. We just haven't done any real firm plans about replacing it, but we do need to start thinking about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Tony's doing a good job helping here move things along too, so everybody's chipping in.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. If there's nothing else, we'll move on to solid waste, as I know Jolene has a number of exciting things to talk to us about.
Okay.
Take it away, Jolene.
All right. So you had the station report that was sent to you. Household hazardous waste bid. We received one bid back for the 2022 collection event. We have tentatively scheduled it for Saturday, May 7th, between 8 and 12, and later on we'll be awarding the bid to MXI Environmental. The leachate bid went out for removal at the county landfills. We hope to have that back by June 18. Grant. I just submitted a grant to New York State DEC under the Municipal Waste Reduction and Recycling Program in the amount of $1.4 million. It's a 50% grant, which would give us $700,000. And this is to cover equipment purchases, some that we've already made, some that we plan to make in the future, and the recycling top load building that we have planned. Station upgrade. So I had sent out prior to this meeting an overview, and I hope everybody had a chance to read it. And it kind of gave you a history dating back to 1972 of how the solid waste department evolved and where we are now. I'm not sure if Ron wants to kind of give a little overview of the meeting that we had with the other supervisors, or do you want me to?
Sure, yeah, I was going to touch on that because not all of these members may have been involved in that, but we did call a meeting earlier this year with supervisors from that throughout the county that do have transfer stations in their towns because they're not all represented here on Public Works. And we had talked in the past about what to do about some of these. And, you know, years ago, I had thought it was a good idea to start thinking about closing a few of these and cut back. But then along came COVID and the influx of new residents here in the county. The solid waste business seemed to grow like crazy. And we've got a lot of new people using our stations. When we talked to all of these supervisors that had stations in their towns, of course, nobody wanted to lose them because the residents have gotten used to them being there. So it was decided to take a look at what would it cost to do a capital investment project to reinvest in these stations. And Jolene can tell you, haven't had much money invested in them in years. A lot of years we would put money in the budget for paving and things like that, and then at the last minute those things get cut out because it was like something you could do away with. So now we're kind of proposing to put it all together and look at it as a capital expenditure, something we bond the money when we do the budget for. And you know, I have talked to Ron Caponera, and I did hope that the committee would support this moving ahead here from here on. So take it away, Jolene.
Okay, so in that packet of information, I did a breakdown based on our best estimate at the time. Tony's staff out at Highway gave us a breakdown of paving costs for all the stations. And as I had mentioned in that overview, you know, most of them have been patched, but nothing has been completely repaired. So in that breakdown, there was paving, there were new compactor units. Keep in mind that those compactors and injection units have been there since day one. That also included the top load building, which I just put a grant in for. So hopefully that money, half of it will be reimbursed. And it was also to update the scale office, all the attendance office. And in the original meeting, when we had with the other supervisors, I had guesstimated $3 million. Probably more realistic, it'll be about $2 million investment. But keeping in mind that, you know, the first station was built in 1982 and it has served us this long with very minimal, you know, maintenance to it. So I think what we're asking is for this committee to consider this overall capital project.
I was one of the supervisors that were on that meeting, as you know, and we kind of went back and forth. Should we privatize, you know, solid waste? And as we went back and forth, we really kind of came to the conclusion that we thought maybe, at least I did in the beginning, thinking that maybe it would be better to privatize it. After we went through the pros and cons on it, we kind of decided that we would keep it running. That was probably the best way to do it for towns and for the county. And these upgrades were important to maintain, these stations and to make her job and make, the whole program go a lot more fluently. So these upgrades, I believe, are needed. And we did kind of go through back and forth whether or not we were going to stay with this or not. And Jolene, do you have it broken out here? I know what the numbers are. I didn't know if everybody else.
Everybody should have received a copy. If they didn't, I'll be happy to forward it to you. Pretty much it broke down roughly $650,000 in paving for all the stations. You're talking roughly $275,000 for new compactors and guide islands at all the stations. Top load building, we're guesstimating around $500,000. Of course, these figures were done before all these spikes in labor and lumber. Ejection containers, roll-offs, again, this could be put under reimbursement for the state at a later date, roughly $100,000. New scale office, $50,000. And new office sheds, $120,000. So it came in just shy of 1.7 million.
Yeah, that's what I see. There was any roll-offs or anything, or we were all set? Yeah.
No, that was included in there with the
Okay.
ejection containers.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay. And again, once we, go forward with this, anything that I could put in future grants, I will apply for.
I would certainly support this. I mean, there's definitely probably going to be a next step on this, correct?
Yes.
But I would support this.
So part of that, what I would like the committee to authorize us on though is part of that is the top load building. And that top load building can get reimbursed from DEC with a grant that Jolene just put in for. Based on the fact that we're already getting money back that we've already spent, it's kind of like a no-brainer in my mind to go ahead with that top load building. We would have done that last year, and it would have been funded. We just didn't because of cash flow, really. But now that we're in a better position to cover the cash flow and wait for the DEC reimbursement, we should put that out. And I think the steps are, this committee, talking to Ron, we were shovel ready with engineering stuff to go out to bid. So if we put those out to bid, then the committee would have to do a resolution to accept the bid once we got a firm number from somebody. So if we start advertising for that, I think we should.
And what about the rest of all the equipment and the rest of the station upgrade? How are we going to?
Well, that I think would be, we got to talk to Ron about budget time. I'm assuming that we would do that as a capital expenditure, and that's into the budget cycle. But
It's just we want to make sure that the whole process happens, not parts of it. That would be
you're part of
lots of
the
it
process.
together, it ain't gonna work. Yeah.
As chair of finance, you'll be important in that. So.
No.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. We're going to be putting a RFP out to solicit engineering consulting firms to write the solid waste master plan for the county. As per New York State regulations, these plans have to be submitted every 10 years, and they explore possible implementation of solid waste management according to the state and federal regs. Over my 30 years here, I've written 2 of these plans in the past. But this year, with all the new regulations coming down and the new requirements to get these approved, after speaking to Ron, we had decided that it's probably best to have an engineering consulting firm actually write it on behalf of the county, as it is going to be our next 10-year obligation to the state. So that'll be going out shortly. Next item on the list is the deputy director position. In the past, this committee had approved the position, but due to COVID, it was taken out of the budget. There is an active civil service list, so we are requesting that the budget committee refund that position.
Ron, did that go through budget review yet?
No, we're just giving you the heads up we're going to. Jolene and I met with Michael and Chairman Morel the other day and went over this, and we're gonna be prepared to bring that to the next budget committee.
Oh, okay.
But we wanted to inform this committee of our plans to go ask for the refunding of that, so.
Right.
We'll have, be prepared for that.
Any other questions on that?
Jolene, on that, the one prior to this, you were talking about the food, putting the 10-year plan. How much do you think what kind of number do you have in mind for that?
Probably around $40,000.
Okay. Is that reimbursable also, that amount of money?
No.
No.
Unfortunately not.
Okay.
Unfortunately not. Another program that we have been working on is the organic food scrap program. In accordance to DEC regulations, the county is exploring the possibility of a food scrap program. We've been working with a local vendor to explore the options and get a better understanding of what the requirements would be in a collection process. We've also been talking to New York State DEC, our representative regarding it. We've been looking at equipment purchases such as a robotic arm extender for the garbage truck to collect 55-gallon totes if they were placed at each of the stations. I did put that into the bid or into the grant. I just made an amendment last Friday and figured, well, at least we'll put it in and it's there. So we could at least get reimbursed for it. Of course, there will be a charge associated with such a program, and we still have to determine estimated quantities, length of haul, fee structures, and actual need. We're going to be surveying the residents to see, if there really is indeed a need, as we're a rural county and a lot of people do backyard composting. We have the Germantown Climate Smart Committee has reached out to us and gave us some information regarding the Ozone, who currently has a collection program and a fee structure, just to give us some idea of, what material is out there and how much it would cost. And once we've compiled more information, we will bring it back to the committee to decide if we would like to start a pilot program. Once again, we did not budget for this because there will be a cost, so there will have to be a revenue stream to offset that cost. Any future purchases, again, I could submit in another grant for 50% reimbursement. And lastly, I do have one resolution request before the committee, and that's to award the contract to MXI Environmental Incorporated for the annual collection event to be held in 2022, whereas they were the sole bidder and will not exceed $50,000.
I'll move that.
I'll second.
Motion. Second, all in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Okay, are there any other questions?
I have one, Jolene. I was watching a DEC webinar where they talked about diverting organics away from landfills.
Yep.
So would they offer any kind of initiative to the county for going through with this food scrap program? It seemed like they were using very strong language about trying to get those fungibles out of the stream before they ended up in the landfill.
There is, through this grant program that I submitted the last grant in for the recycling, there is an initiative to give you 50% reimbursement for any of your costs. Unfortunately, any of the collection costs that we have to absorb, we're going to have to figure that out in a revenue stream. So any equipment, yes, there will be a 50% reimbursement for. But any of our transportation, labor, stuff like that, we'll have to work out.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
I have a quick question on the transfer station upgrades.
Yep.
Do you have any thoughts about an implementation timeline at all?
That's actually going to depend on our funding, getting our bids out. I would like to have it done within the next 2 years before I retire. That's kind of my personal goal.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
If there's nothing else for Jolene, we'll move on to facilities.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jolene.
Good evening. Everyone sees the work schedule that we've been doing. I'm just going to highlight a couple key things. We have a couple guys. We've been working on this treasurer's office renovation, which involves splitting the room in half, opening up the doorway for the treasurer's office for new employees coming over into that office space. The courthouse, let's see, part two, like phase 2 has begun. The track is down. We put the flooring down. Now we're just waiting on decisions for colors for the bench and the carpet. So once we get that, then we can move forward. It's just tricky working now. The court is in session a lot, so we have to give the room up at least once or twice a week. But so little by little, we get to go, back and forth. That's going to put the job back a little ways. Nutrition, we started working on running wires and installing and also rerouting wires for generator hookups. Our plan is to put 2 hookups, one for the freezers and one for coolers. So in the event we have a power outage, we can bring the generator out, at least get the coolers going. And then if it's a prolonged outage, we either can borrow, like we have done before in the past, from Solid Waste, their generator, and actually hook into the freezer line, or get to the point where we can just swap it over, run the freezers for a little while to get them back to temp, and then go back. This way we don't have a massive expense until, we see what happens with the future if that project goes forward with the new site. So I think this is a good idea, just, to get them protected at least. So this way we can go out there fairly quick and, at least save the department from losing their perishables. And then, of course, with doing this report, I didn't knock on wood. The sewer treatment plant was going great until I said something, and then we had a clog just yesterday. So, but it's been good all month. This is the first one, since the last meeting.
The Whittier clog, right?
Yep.
Well, you were on that last meeting, right? So
yeah, I was, and that's why I didn't want to jump. But I was gonna say, yeah, I screwed up. I should have never said anything. And as soon as I said something the next day, I get the message. So that'll be my fault. I'll take the blame on that one.
Hopefully that situation's got to be addressed as we discussed earlier. So
yeah, we've tried, I don't think it would work at Pine Haven. We tried using baskets to collect it, but I mean, that's something you're going to have to maintain and, or check frequently until the situation may have been, gets fixed,
we
but
haven't
that was
received, but Brian, all this money we've been spending for years now, we haven't received, they don't pay it, right?
no, to my knowledge, no.
So, I guess we're working on it. We did work on from the sewer committee side. We need to address this somehow where we actually can lien the property or something. There has to be some laws because you just can't let them get away with it like this. It's a shame.
Yeah, I
we don't
agree.
want to ruin the new line. That was the big issue too,
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And that's why, like I said, unless something goes in, depending on where the discharge comes in, like I said, we tried it at Pine Haven, but you literally had to check it every day because if stuff was coming in, you had to get rid of it. I don't know how deep, the discharge line would be in regards to where it comes into their the station.
Yeah,
So,
well, there was discussions on grinder pumps and everything else, but okay.
We also been helping the health department out at the fairgrounds, helping them set up for their vaccination pods. Then little by little, every once in a while, the emergency management office calls us, and when they have quarantine individuals, we have to go out to the specific sites and maybe do a disinfection of the common areas, not so much where they stay, but just the common area. So we've been doing that regularly. And then out at the airport, I was contacted by this representative from, they're called Beta Technologies. And they were interested in setting up a meeting with the county. I don't know if we want to go through this committee to get the authorization to, probably go through the airport sub, which we haven't had in a while. I figured I'd bring it up here. What it is they have these new, they're called EVTOLs. It's an electrical vertical takeoff and landing craft. And according to him, they have multiple charging stations in Vermont, Ohio, New York, and they're putting them in several states also. And basically what he was trying to explain to me is, the primary function of them right now is they're partnering like with UPS and Amazon for, they call it the end of the line delivery, like in rural areas. This technically doesn't fall under a plane. So when I spoke with the representative from the FAA, it's this new market. They're not sure where it's going to go. This is going to be considered more like a helicopter, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And they don't know where it's going, but this company is really interested, and according to them, they're going to pay all the costs up front. And what would happen is like something similar to the charging stations at probably some of the town halls. You get a percentage of what they charge. There also is a way, I think you can also they can put another hookup onto the system, which would charge a vehicle also. But it's something I figured I'd bring up if this is something that everyone would be interested in, or if we go through the airport sub first and then make its way here, or if just we're not interested at this time. Just figure I'd bring it up.
Isn't
So this
though
is
a
a
lot of that
charge-
stuff
oh,
being done
sorry.
more? Oh, no, that's all right. Good.
No, go ahead and I'll go after you.
Isn't this more for highly residential areas where, like in the cities and stuff like that, that unit, not necessarily where we are? I don't know. I'm asking Brian. I don't know if they mentioned that.
No, with the way he explained it, and I was looking it up. What it is the craft can only go about 200 to 250 miles.
Right.
So that's why I think they're like putting little spots, in all the areas so they can go from one port to the other.
It's electric. It's an
Yeah,
electric.
totally. Yep, electric with all battery. So
Right.
But I looked them up and I did a little research, and it seems like UPS is putting in to buy several of these crafts.
But they would deliver to our airport, or they would deliver it more to like the big hubs, like Albany. You know what I'm saying to you? That's what I don't.
Well, I from my take on it, they would use it as probably, like, say from an Albany or something, they could actually take either from their main hub, and instead of driving it down, they could just transport it faster, drop it off to an awaiting vehicle.
Okay.
If they had a hangar, I just don't like the FAA. They're really not sure where it's going either, because this is like basically new. Who's gonna like govern it? Whereas like if you just put a helipad up, because the helipads are different from the airports, but I don't know how they're going to go. There's this guy, like I said, he seems they were going to pay for everything, and he wants to have, I said, all right, well, I'll pass it on and see,
My
what we
only
think.
concern is that like when they first came out with these electric cars, there was big issues as far as what kind of adapters and how they were going to plug in and,
Yeah.
voltage wise and who come up with this voltage, who come up with that voltage. And these chargers were really had to be set up like gas stations all over the place for this to work. We
Yeah.
need a whole infrastructure. I'm just not sure with this thing being so new is if this is the way to go, or should we just keep an eye on it? Just kind of watch it for a little bit and see where it's going, and then maybe jump into it. Just talk.
No, exactly. And that, like I said, I only had a brief conversation, looked up a little of it. And I said, well, I'll pass and I'll give him as much information. He also sent me like a copy of the contract type, I can forward that to everybody if they wanted to look at it. But I figured I didn't want to bother unless if this is something we say, yeah, it's worth looking into or not. So
Brian, can I ask you, I'm not sure I'm catching this. Are they looking just to have a charging port where they would land this craft at our airport, charge it and go on? Or are they looking to bring product in on a craft and then ship it out of there?
No,
So we have shipping as well.
Yep. No, this company is strictly with they produce the aircraft and they're they call them like the pods, the charging pods. And I was looking at some, I'm just going by their website. I don't know exactly what they have, but it looked like a little building where it was like a 1 hour charger. So if you were flying, and plus it is a passenger craft too, so they could stop as it's charging. Either they had looked like a little office lounge type room. They could relax and sit there while their vehicle charged.
And we'll put up a
something
Columbia
like that.
County gift shop next to it.
Yeah.
So we're just the county would just rent the real estate. They'd provide the structure and the hardware and the firmware for this charging.
That's what he said. They would be responsible for paying and getting this up. All the equipment up and running.
What are you paying us though for real estate?
What they do is the charging cost. Depending on how frequent these vehicle or these aircrafts came, you would get it's like the gas tax kind of. Like you would get whatever the like say they were charging a $10 a kilowatt hour or something. If we were getting 5%, maybe we'd get 50 cents or $1, whatever it charged or something like that. Somehow it's broken down. So
why don't you ask that company to make a presentation to the airport committee?
Okay. So yeah, I can do that.
That would be good.
Yeah. I just didn't know if we wanted to, do it here before the committee, if it was something that we think was a good idea or just
Still questions I don't know the answer to, so.
I agree. All right, let's see here. I have a resolution. Want to transfer funds from one account to our vehicle account. Now the 9,000 we put in the account for a fire alarm panel upgrade for 401, but since we possibly might be going with that an upgrade, there's no sense doing anything to this building till we figure out the end game, I would say. So and the panel works, it receives, so we're not in any danger or anything, but we're just looking to replace the rotting bed of our 2012 Chevy with 49,000 miles. This way we can add a service truck to the fleet. Right now have mostly pickups, and we started ordering the extended cabs and the extra cabs just as toolboxes, because those are our plow vehicles also. Now, Supervisor Guzzi, I was going to ask you, because we were thinking about going utility bodies and then putting sanders in that going forward. Would oiling them, like they do the undercarriage every year, prevent the salt damage? I agree with you. Like that's why this truck's in the shape it's in, because of this. Was this one of our plow trucks? I just don't have a solution. That's what we were coming up with. At least have utility trucks with the option of pushing snow.
So this one, This is a 3/4 ton or a ton?
This is a ton.
This is a ton, okay. And then this is a standard body or extended cab?
Regular cab.
Regular cab, all right.
Yep.
The problem is with utility bodies, as you know, they rust like crazy to begin with. And
Yep.
my concern is Ronnie Knott and I were talking about it, sticking a sander in there is definitely going to increase it, you know?
Correct.
So
Yeah,
that's an issue, you know, right there. You're gonna and that sand kicks around, and you know, in the back where you got your doors and everything are gonna get really, you know, covered. So you're gonna have to wash it. They do have a chemical out there that does help dissolve the rust down a little bit. It's got to be washed, and you can spray it, you know, with there's a penetrating oil they use on oil rigs. I'll get you the name of it. That works very well, and that holds it down too. But what's the shape of this truck underneath, like brake lines and whole frame and everything? You know, if the bed's rotted.
I brought it into the mechanics, and they said the truck was in good shape.
Okay.
So he said it's, you know, because we asked him first. I said, is it worth to do this? Because we were going to put in for a vehicle this year, but you know, with everything happening, I said, you know, we can wait a year, you know, so we pulled it. But figuring, since this truck we use primarily in the wintertime just for hauling a snowblower around, you know, it's one of our spare plows. It doesn't normally get a sander now because we're afraid to put it in the bed anyways. But this way we'll have one more utility vehicle in our fleet, because the guys are putting, you know, bags of tools in the back of you know, the trucks, and this we don't have to get the extended cabs because it is a waste for us.
Yeah.
But like I said, that's our tool box in the wintertime when the sanders are in the truck. That's why I was trying to figure out a way to, you know, get service plus plow vehicles, and you know, that's the only thing that we were thinking of, the box with the sander. But we'd have, like I said, we have to really be on top of it.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the key. You got to stay on top of it. I mean, that was the first thing that I said, you know, wow, you know, they rust to begin with without adding, you know, a sander back there.
Yeah, yep.
So this would be, you know, I understand what you're trying to do, and I think the utility body would work good for it. But when you dump that sander in there, we got nothing else we can put a sander in, a regular.
Well, this one here, we're not gonna put a sander in, but we like going forward for future trucks. And like I said, one of these, maybe I'll talk, speak with you about it and see if you have any ideas going
There is
forward.
a chemical that we could do, but yeah. So this won't get one right away.
No, this won't. This is gonna be just a backup plow, because we have it's the only truck we have with the straight plow, so we let it, you know, be our backup. No sander will go in this one. So
Is
this
that-
way we'll.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, yeah. Then this way we'll like I said, we'll have two service vehicles in the fleet.
Is this body, what type of body is it? Did you actually get a price yet, or is that?
Yeah, we got one, we got two, we got for an aluminum was 8,000, and the steel was 7,700.
Yeah, better off with the aluminum.
Yeah, that's what we were
That's
thinking.
installed, correct?
No, I believe that's no, it's not painted or installed. That's just one quote we got so far from a TNT Sales. So
better make sure we better get the whole number on that, because installation and painting and all that's going to be pretty high.
We were going to have I spoke with Dennis the mechanic. It was going to be handled all through the county.
Oh, you guys going to do it in-house?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Well, sorry, Tony, I forgot to ask you. Yeah.
Then that's okay. Yeah, good.
Yep. So I figured this one here, after seeing what Tony just did, this one would slide right in with this little number.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry to throw you in, Tony.
All right, I'll make a motion for this. You know.
All right, got a
I'll
motion.
second.
Second, Donnell, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Seems
Thanks,
like the
Tony.
aluminum body would have been far more expensive than the steel one.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we have one more, just like a personnel. It was put in the executive session, but we did have one of our workers resign that'll take effect this year. So I'll be going to the
Budget
finance next month.
Yeah, okay.
Should be any questions? Yeah, there's plenty to keep, not all at the same time, but if the two generators together, we're fine. So.
The name of that chemical is fluid film, by the way.
You can buy that in a gallon jug, right?
Yeah, you can get it in sprays or gallon jug, and it started out as they used it on oil rigs, and salt and everything like that. It works really good.
It's a lanolin product, right?
I don't know to answer you, with that.
Brian, is there any way you can just spread sand instead of a sand salt mix, or is that just not good enough for the parking lots and everything else?
Well, no, that would at one point we did use sand when we had like a heavy ice buildup. It destroyed the building. The dirt, the dirt on everyone's shoes coming in, because employees may take the time to wipe their feet. Public won't. And if you get them walking through there, it's a mess. So it was a couple of times like, well, we can never do this again.
So we'll rust their cars instead of them messing up our carpets.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, Donnell, in the country we can use sand, but in the cities you can't do that.
But that aluminum body won't rust if you do that, right?
It'll protect it. They oxidize. You know what happens to them. Aluminum still goes to hell, but it take more abuse than the steel, I believe. So. The pros and cons is that if you bang up or do some damage to the aluminum body, it's a lot more costly to fix.
Yeah.
For the steel one, you can fix just welding, get in there and do it in normal welder. Otherwise, it requires a specific type welder. But I think in your case, the aluminum way is the better way to go, personally.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, anything else for Brian? I do have a couple other quick things. I have a last minute resolution that I think got put on our website today. If not, I apologize, but the Space Utilization Committee had recommended that we do an RFP for a feasibility study for the OFA kitchen and office space that we had talked about out at Commerce Park. We received those results on Friday, and I reviewed them over the weekend. We got very good bidding on there. It was pretty interesting. But we had a bid opening Friday. There were 7 proposals presented. The prices range from $22,000 to $175,000. And I'm making, I've got a resolution here before us that says, based on our review of the bid documents, we recommend that we award the bid to CPL, who has established a solid working relationship with Columbia County and will provide a final report, which will assemble a building configuration, generic elevations, proposed site location, The final report will incorporate a room-by-room program, projected equipment list, total cost projection to include construction costs, contingencies, equipment budget, fees and soft costs, and a schedule to help guide the county in developing design documents, bidding, and construction of a new facility for a lump sum of $24,500. These folks we've worked with a number of times. We know CPL, but they are out offering to bring on a food service expert company that did come down and look at our OFA kitchen, and I feel that they can help us design a building that would be good for us. So I'd like to move ahead with that if I could get a motion.
Move it,
Yeah.
Ray Stats.
And I'll second it. I did review those too with you, Ron, and I think that was the good call, that one. Yeah.
Good. Thank you. I got one other thing, and this is not a resolution.
You got to vote on that?
Got to vote.
I'm sorry, we didn't vote on it. Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you much. I just wanted to inform the committee, I sent this to Jimmy the other day, but listening to Brian talk about the charging stations, I did want everybody to know, Brian and I met with a company here recently, and we looked at doing some charging stations in the county. Part of this came out of the Climate Smart committee folks task force. They had thought that we should look at having more charging stations, and they're actually trying to formulate where there's a need for them in the city of Hudson. My first thought was maybe we would try and put one at 560 where we've got people parking at DMV and the public could use it. But that turned out to be a little more problematic than I thought because of getting power to it. These things require more power than I had thought of. What I didn't realize is, and Jimmy I know has looked at trying to, with the idea of can we lease some cars so that some of our fleet cars would be electric, but then we would need infrastructure for that. We can combine that process where if we had charging stations that were open to the public during the working hours and then we use them at night, we could then still get the 90% reimbursement that these reimbursement programs can offer. So out at the DSS parking lot, there is a location like that that could work where we park all of our fleet cars, and it's right at the end of a three-phase power run, and we could easily run wires from a new pole. So I had this company price out a situation where they would put in a new service, and we're proposing right now to put in 4 charging stations at this location, and the county could use it for fleet cars if we were to go in that direction, and the public could use them, during the day when our fleet cars are out. And they would put in a credit card, and that would pay for the electricity. We would get reimbursed from that company. I need to get you some more details on how that process works. I've kind of got an idea. Like I say, we're not asking for a resolution at this point. I just wanted to inform everybody. But those 4 charging stations at that location would cost $54,000. But there's currently $47,000 in rebates and incentives offered to accomplish that. So it's about a $7,000 cost to the county. So it's not, we had a resolution, but it's a consideration. And I don't know if Jimmy's got any information on the cars that he wants to talk about yet, but that's what we kind of need to, we just needed those numbers to factor that into what we would have to pay to have leased cars that are electric.
Hey, Ron, is that, we have to put the money up front on this and then get reimbursed, or is it going to be a slow reimbursement? Do you know how?
No, I think most of this, this company is proposing to do it and they get the rebate for most of it. So I need to square that up with them because they've got it broke out into 2 rebate incentives. And I think so the half of it, $23,000 goes directly to them. $24,000 comes to us.
Okay.
And I don't know the time frames of that.
Right.
But this one company is able to do everything under state contract. They say, provide the wiring and everything to do it for that kind of money. So.
I imagine that this would be fee-based, that people would pay for the service.
Yes,
or what?
so-
So it could be money-making eventually, maybe.
Or at least breaking even.
Right.
You got to make sure that that thing's in a good spot with cellular service, because that's how they communicate with the company that provides the contract for the
Right.
app and the direct deposit. I'm just saying this. We have one, and it's a bad cellular area, so at times they don't know if it's working or not, and it's been broken multiple times. So just as a caveat, it should definitely be in a good area for cell service. And you should also make sure that the hardware itself has a good warranty, because ours went within a few years. And I was talking to a technician who replaced the head, and he said, "Yeah, these things don't last very long." So when you guys had on the the Climate Smart County Committee, I think you had a representative from one of the firms that does the installation.
That's the guy
He
I
said
talked
they
to,
have
yeah.
He said they have a 10-year warranty, so we should make sure they stick to that, because we just had to spend $1,000 for a new head to replace something that wasn't very old, and the technician who installed it said, "Oh yeah, I just came from Wyndham. We put that in 2 years ago and it's already shot." So just make sure we get the right warranties on the hardware. We have good cellular service, and the fee is adjusted so that it covers not only the contractual portion but the utility portion. Because we're in a situation where, like, I don't need to be greedy and Chatham, but it would be nice to break even, because the grant we got required 2 years of the municipality to give away free energy to the users, and after that we could go into charging. So it's just kind of like, okay, can we at least break even so you still have that equivalent of a fill up of gasoline, but you don't have to tell your taxpayers that this thing is just continuing to cost them money when only 0.05% of your population has electric vehicles. You know what I mean?
You're right. We got the same thing in our town, and we installed one. The charging head is a big deal. Some of it is the way these cars are accepting the voltage from quick charge to long charge and everything. And it's not really, it's like we have gas pumps now. They all use a certain size. Everything's the same, The companies are still playing around, and voltage and all this is becoming an issue. So I think as time goes, they're going to get better with all this, because let's face it, I think the future is going to be these electric, vehicles,
Plastic's a little brittle, and the plastic fails.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for all that input on that. We'll keep asking questions. As far as cell service, we're talking about locating these in the city of Hudson. That should be fine, but I do have questions on, they did tell me, that we would just double the electric rate and charge that back, but I don't know how much we would actually get them used, and what the generation would be, so it's kind of interesting, but we'll keep asking questions and we'll find out. And Brian talked earlier about, excuse me, about work being done at 401 State Street. And again, I remind you that I've got SmartWatt coming to a full board to do a presentation on a major overhaul for that building, energy, as well as ADA accessibility issues at 401. So they're gonna, rather than do that to our space utilization committee, I asked them to do it to the full board, because it's a pretty important, concept, but, whether we want to go that route or not, I don't know, but when we talked about doing other buildings, we needed to know what would it cost to fix our building, so we've got those firm numbers now, and, I hope we'll look forward to a presentation, at the June full board meeting. All right, is there anything else to come before Public Works tonight? Not, I would entertain a motion to go outside and enjoy the day.
I'll move it.
Second,
Second,
all in favor?
aye.
All right,
Thanks, everybody.
everybody.
Good meeting,
Bye,
Ron.
everyone.
Good
Thank
meeting.
you.